Hour number 2, we got Ben Jones hanging out in studio with us. We'll have Coach Dave McGinnis on the phone here in just a little while. If you want to join the discussion on this Football Friday, 615-737-1045 is the number. We'd be happy to have you at any point. Ben, you want to take some phone calls today?
Yeah, I guess we can talk to some people.
We got some good ones the last time you were in with us, and we look forward to talking Titans with folks throughout the course of the day. Also going to get back into the SEC. Lucas has a pick'em, a week 2 pick'em, with actual prep work done. We have notes that he has prepared for us, and Ben and I will go through that with him a little later on this hour as well.
Is that what you consider prep?
For this show, bud.
Team names and point spreads?
It's pretty good. And the time they play,
that's more prep work than is ever in front of me at any given point for any of the 3 hours of radio that we do on a regular basis.
I even bolded and underlined it at the top.
That's what I'm saying. There are things to clarify for me what's a game and what's not. That's prep to me. But Ben, since we are talking about another season, and I know that you're in a situation where physically you got to get right, and then we'll see what developments happen for you, or where are you kind of at right now with trying to play this year? It seems like that still is the train of thought.
Yeah, started back training here in the last couple of weeks, and still rehabbing. I came straight here from rehab today, and trying to get the shoulder and elbow back right, because I had opportunities to go places in March, but I didn't want to lead somebody on. I'm like, hey, I want to make sure I can play at a high level. I want to make sure my body heals the right way. I didn't want to just drag somebody along and, hey, if I'm able to play, I can. So if I sign with somebody, I want to be 100% all in, and that's how I'm ramping up training so I'm able to play at some point in the year.
How, because, I mean, it's just the one time prior to this that you've been through free agency. So for that, like, kind of transparency for you between you and a team, or the teams that were interested during the initial free agency wave, what kind of went into that decision? Because I feel like a lot of guys would have been like, yeah, let's do the deal, and then we'll figure it out afterwards. How much of that was as much for you, though, as it was for the team?
Yeah, I think my agent said it was the weirdest offseason interaction between a player and team, because he didn't talk to the GM, and they called me directly. Like, I would have the GM on the phone, the offensive line coach on the phone, the head coach from different teams. Like, hey, what does this offseason look like? What can we make this happen now? Or do you want to wait? What is your ideal goal, and where do you want to be, say, beginning of the season, off season? What is your ideal situation? So I would literally tell the head coach, the GM, everybody, like, hey, I'm not healthy right now. I just had surgery a couple weeks ago. I don't want to put that. I don't want y'all to invest in me like you're trying to, if my body's not going to heal the way I want it to. Because if I'm going to play there, I want to do it at a high level, and I don't want to be a phony and come up there and just try to take some money.
That's a more noble approach than I feel like a lot of people in the marketplace would, or at least a more transparent approach than a lot of people in the marketplace, in that particular marketplace, I think, would take. With that being said, talking about free agency, I don't know if Derrick Henry is going to hit free agency at the end of the year, but he's in an expiring contract situation. And, it's hard for me to not – I could see an argument certainly for keeping Derrick around. I think that he's clearly still a productive player, which is not the case for a lot of running backs, a durable player, which is not the case for a lot of running backs who are in the situation that the position group seems to be right now. But it's hard for me, Ben, to not kind of look at this and be like, all right, this might be like the last dance type of situation for him and this team. That's as real a scenario as any out there. For him, and when you, having worked with him as long as you did and having the relationship with him that you guys and your family still have, do you kind of look at that the same way a little bit, understanding both sides of things? Because, like I said, I could see the case for them, with a lot more money next year, saying, all right, we'll figure out some way to make this work. And we'll it's not like you can't find a role for Derrick Henry beyond this season. But how do you kind of look at this season for him from your perspective?
Yeah, I just want him to be healthy. Once Derrick, he's going to train a certain way. He's going to take care of his body. He does literally something every single day, 365 days a year to take care of his body. And it shows. His training, his recovery, he really, and I think that's going to benefit in his career later in the years. Most running backs are tapering off right now, and he's still the same guy. Like, he can still break the long runs. He can run in between tackles. You know what you're getting from him, and he's on the field on Sunday. And that's what you want in the back. And when you have him in the backfield, you have to prepare for him. No matter if it's year 2 Derrick or year 8 Derrick, you got to know where he is. And he's going to be valuable no matter if he's here or somewhere else. Trust me, I would love to keep him here, right here next door to me. He's one of my best friends, but he's going to go out there and he's going to have a great year like he always does. And I think they'll come around.
He's more valuable here, though, to this particular team than it feels like he might be to a lot of other teams, given the style of play and how they've found ways to be. And it's not like you have to work too terribly hard to find ways to be successful with Derrick Henry, but there is certain things that Derrick can do better than others. With him, I think that looking at just trying to find a less of a dependency on him, because there can be a need for the fans to kind of say, well, Derrick Henry, give him the ball as many times, don't take him off the field on third down, like all these different things. And there may be arguments for that at different points, but like I was talking about this last night on the streaming show that Bert and I do, and in the middle of the discussion about Derrick Henry and season expectations, I'm like, I'd like to see Derrick like have 1,250 yards and not have to do all this stuff by himself. And find sustainability in that. They have this rookie running back, Tajay Spears, who looks electric. I think they're going to find ways to get him on the field, and I would love to see that bite into Derrick's workload a little bit so that they can sustain him.
Yeah, you want to see it. You don't want to see somebody get run in the ground. You want him to be fresh every single week. You don't want 30 to 35 carries like he did in college and some of those playoff runs that we had to have him. But if you wanted to see next year, it's going to be exciting. We got a new offense coordinator. You want to see how they use him, what schemes, how he's going to fit in their scheme this year. You knew what he looked like for the past 5 years, and the Malarkey to LaFleur to Arthur to we all ran the same systems. A new system, new coordinator. You want to see how their style is for Derrick. And I think through this season you'll see, hey, is this the style that you're going to see Derrick in here next year? Does he fit? Or is it better for him to go somewhere else where they can build around him again?
Where is he most successful? Like where do you have to put him in a position to succeed, or what are the runs that you guys tried and execute that you know that Derrick is going to eat no matter what? That's a 4 to 5 yard gain every time.
Yeah, we want to get him on the DBs. If he's on a DB out there in space, it's hard living for those guys. He's so long, he's able to stiff arm you. You're making business decisions out there. Do I go low and get put on a meme? Do I stay up and get thrown in the bleachers?
Poor Josh Norman.
Oh gosh. And
it still happens. It's 3 years, 4 years later, and he's still out there on the meme.
But when you say you play against the Bengals and you're coming out and they break the hull of the first play and they're in goal line defense and we're in 11 personnel, we're like, oh, we know what their game plan is. It's the stop 2-2 today.
Yeah.
And some teams are like, hey, no matter what, he's not running the ball today, and somehow he would still get yards. You're like, hey, this guy is special. Like, you put talent around this guy and have guys that, hey, you have to play normal defense. There's no telling what he can do.
Well, what you've just described, like trying to get him out there on a defensive back, like creating explosive plays through the running game is a hell of a lot harder than it is in the passing game. At least it runs counter to what a lot of the league does, and you guys consistently found ways to take advantage of those matchups because, I mean, I don't think you can exist in the NFL today as just a cover corner anymore. I think, you have to tackle. At least you have to attempt in most cases. And it's clear and obvious the ones who are prepared for that moment and the ones who are very much not. God bless Jordan Boyer because he will try it every time. And every time he gets bounced.
Yeah, when you have willing tacklers out there, he knows, like, hey, this guy's going to fit the run. Some guys are like, oh, I hope somebody else is going to make the play for I have to. But we know going in those games, you're playing against a wind guard from Jacksonville. It's going to be a good day.
Just the way that you guys throw shade at the Jags always made me so happy. Like, that's the kind of stuff I want in the locker room, Ben. I don't want to bother you while you're taping up your thumbs and whatnot. I want Woodyard to put on the Jags jacket.
Tell him to his face in the game, and not on an article you hold up. Oh, Ben Jones Said Wingard
I can't do
tackle.
anything with that, man. I got a whole week of stuff to talk about.
That's why they're trying to mic me up in the game. I'm like, no, you're not miking me up.
How many times? Oh my God, I would have killed for that. Like an
No
honest
way.
mic'd up moment. It's wild to me that they ever mic up Vrabel because they go through an hour and a half of that you can't use but 10 seconds.
Yeah.
It's the most creative cusser I've ever heard in my life.
He's got a lot of adjectives.
He certainly does. 615-737-1045. Kevin in Nashville is up first. Hey, Kevin.
Hi. Ben, I got a question for you. Whoa, Jesus.
Nope.
Sorry.
Stay with me.
That was a red light. For as long as I've been around football, including when I played, my understanding has been that the center, 99% of the time, called the blocking for the interior line while you're at the line of scrimmage. The idiots that are on Buck's competitive TV station the other day was saying, well, we got a new center at the Titans. Tannehill's going to have to pick this up. Are you ever aware of somebody in the offensive line not calling the blocking on a particular play?
Yeah, the center's going to set the scheme. Everything's based off of his point, his call, then it kind of trickles down. Center makes the call for whoever he's working with, then the next guy makes his call off of where the center. So if it's a run, the center's making the calls for the run game.
Brewer, in this, why don't we talk about that with Coach Dave McGinnis coming up next? Because that's the offensive line is obviously a big talking point this year. We're fortunate to have Ben Jones in studio. We're even more fortunate to have Coach Mack coming up next.